The dark night of the soul is the ultimate test. The masters say that people go through countless lifetimes of challenges, growth, and effort. And just maybe it can eventually culminate into what is called the dark night of the soul. This one last final purification, this transition, this graduation into a new version of oneself. And what's really interesting is that for the longest time, this experience, this metamorphosis was reserved to only the rarest of souls. But now here come 2025, you have millions of people going through this exact same significant transformation. And this video is going to share with you the most common signs and symptoms that you're going through it. Because here's the other thing. Most of the people who are going through it don't know they're going through it. They don't know that the challenges they're facing or the emotional upheaval and turmoil they're experiencing or all the changes taking place in their life, the heartache, the angst, the spiritual vacancy even. They don't know that all of this is actually indicative of a sacred gift, a blessing, an act of grace, a transition into a completely new state of consciousness and a completely new and upgraded on all levels life. So without further ado, welcome to my YouTube channel, my friends. My name is Victor Oddo. It's a pleasure to have you, and I will see you inside of the video. Sign number one, a fall from grace. A lot of times, ironically, right before a person enters the dark night of the soul, what precedes that is like a little tease, a glimpse of the divine in some way. You know, people can have anywhere from a near-death experience or just a bizarre dream that you know for a fact was more than a dream, or just some type of temporary heightened level of consciousness where you get to experience and know for yourself that there is some type of benevolent underlying structure to reality, and you can feel it, you can see it, you're experiencing it. And with this can come a lot of magic and a lot of just ironies and synchronicities. You might feel like you're being guided from some type of higher power, and you feel great. You feel like you can't lose. You feel like you found something and you've discovered the secret to life. And all of a sudden, for one reason or another, that goes away. And it goes away quick, and you can barely remember what it was like, to the point where you're questioning, what was that? Was that even real? Whether it was real or not, it ain't doing you any good, because now what's happening is, since you've fallen from grace, you're being faced with problem after problem after problem in life. It can feel like your life is breaking apart at the seams on a very foundational level. Your career, your relationships, your living situation all start to kind of shake. And it's not just the shaking. You could say, well, Vic, people go through hard times, bro. Turn on the news. It doesn't mean they're going through the dark night of the soul, and I totally understand. But the difference is not so much what's happening, even though it seems like a pretty cruel twist of fate, the way things are going sometimes. Like, many problems can indeed stack up to almost an obnoxious degree, but most importantly is how you feel. It's that these perfectly manifested problems trigger you at the deepest levels, at a core level. So not only is your foundation shaking and the rug has been whipped from beneath your legs, but you're feeling like a little frightened, fragile child on the inside. Your self-worth issues, your traumas, all this stuff at a very deep level just starts to bombard you. And the combination of all three of those things, one, having just experienced the exact opposite of that and sort of falsely assuming you've made it. Two, all the actual problems, sometimes there are real problems, sometimes they just seem like problems. Nonetheless, you think at the time it's bad in your life. But then also the emotional upheaval. It makes for a perfect storm of heartache and madness and chaos. And yet, again, this is welcome to the dark night of the soul. All the things that are breaking down so you can create something much better, much more in alignment with the true self, who you're still discovering and maybe don't even know who that is yet, but it's there and it's emerging. And when the castles fall, you will be left standing and you will be more tapped in than ever before, able to create something much better, much more in alignment, much more a reflection of your true preferences, your true interests, your true passions, your true joys. But most importantly, that connection you once felt will come back, usually kind of gradually. But it doesn't go away like it did before. It will stay with you more so, and you will get to be more so rooted in this humble connection with the divine. So I say all that to remind you that this too shall pass. And as you already intuitively sense, it's all happening for a reason. It's all happening for a higher purpose. It's all happening to you, someone who is actually ready for this experience, ready for this evolutionary leap. Secondly, if what I said seemed a little bit dramatic, bear with me, because it doesn't have to start off that way for everybody. I'd say, like, in my estimation, like maybe half, 40, 50, 60%, something like that. The other people, the dark night will come on kind of gradually. In fact, your life might be on paper okay, but you can't escape from this feeling that there's something missing. And you don't know what it is. You probably sense it's not going to be the next job promotion or something like that. It's like something deeper. It's like life is just kind of passing you by and you might feel kind of numb. Like you're not really there. You're not really grasping it. You're not really experiencing the depth of the joy and the love and the passion that you are starting to kind of wake up to. It could be there, but it's just not there for you. It's not there in your life, and you don't know why. And it's common during this time to kind of try to find it. This is where a lot of people, they think they're going through like a midlife crisis, and they buy a sports car or something, and they quickly realize, well, that's not doing it, but maybe for a couple of days, obviously. But you know that. You probably already know that what you're looking for is something sacred. What you're looking for is a deeper satisfaction and presence and connection with life. And this awareness is kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, good. Now you kind of know what to look for. You don't have to waste the next 10 years of your life climbing the corporate ladder with this false assumption that that's going to finally make you feel worthy and good. You know better. At the same time, you might find yourself wondering, well, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know where to look then. All I know is I'm not happy. And I don't see how I'm going to be happy unless something changes. There's something missing. This happened to me years ago. When I was in my early 20s, thankfully, I feel blessed. I met my soulmate, my beautiful wife, Patty. We've been married to this day. It's 16 some years. So many years I have to think about it. But I remember when we first became married, we became pregnant as well. And my wife's father bought us this nice house. And it was like all of a sudden, I met my soulmate. I was going to have a baby, and I had this nice pad that was bought for me by my father-in-law. I remember one day sitting on the couch, kind of looking up and wondering, why don't I feel happier? Like, I've kind of gotten everything I could have asked for at a very young age, and it all happened at once. And while it was very stimulating, it was like, interesting. I thought by the time I got this, it would feel deeper, it would feel better. And that was like the beginning, one of the beginnings anyway, of my dark night. There's this awareness that there's something else in life that I'm not connecting to. Another main indicator is that some major component of your life is breaking down, changing in kind of a destructive way without being like scary. It's not dangerous, but it could be, an example could be like you've worked at the same career for a long time and all of a sudden you're catching wind that the company, might be going out of business. And you don't know, all of a sudden your future, which was once at least seemed set. You had your 401k, your pension, you got 10, 20 years in, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like you have to kind of reevaluate everything. Now, whether you're going to lose your job or not, it's irrelevant. It's something falls into your lap that causes you to, at least where it seems like it might. And just that possibility is like, whoa, what's going on? There's this sense of what was there, what was working, what was in alignment, what was once flourishing, slowly but surely start to kind of break down. Sometimes all you need is that almost like that scare, like nothing actually happens. Some of us, it is an actual breakdown because maybe you're meant to do something better. Maybe you're meant to have a career that is more in alignment with your purpose and your passion, and you'll make more money and you'll be 10 times more satisfied and there's security. But if you don't know that at the time, you have no idea. All you know is you wake up one day and things are changing and not in a good way. Sometimes you can have multiple situations like this all happening. I had a friend that experienced what's known as Shaktipat, which, without getting into that, it's kind of like what I said, kind of like a mystical experience, basically. And for like a time, for like a week, he felt like he was on cloud nine. He felt like he was connected to God, all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, in a short span of time, he lost his job. He was kicked out of his apartment, and he broke up with his girlfriend. And it was like, whoa, like all these big things were dropping away. Fast forward a few years, he found a new job, a new girlfriend, and he's happier than ever before. It needed to break down because that whole life, for him anyway, was not really a product of his true self, but more so his conditioning, the person he thought he once was. The dark night of the soul has come to kind of set you straight. Say, like, this is who you actually are, and whatever's not a fit in your life, it's got to go. And it's intense when it happens because, again, you don't know what's happening. It's just like, it's scary. But the result, you need that destruction for the new growth to occur. It's no different than, I used to live in Las Vegas, and one time I took my kids to this nature preserve. And they had this section, this area that was kind of sectioned off by a fence. And it was interesting because it was all black. It was like a forest fire had ripped through this like little patch of nature, and it was like everything was dead and black. It was like part of the presentation. But there was this little notary thing there that kind of explained what was happening. And it said something along the lines of like, I know this looks bad, but forest fires are a natural part of nature. And they're part of the cycle of growth, because all that ash actually eventually turns into nutrition for the soil. And then everything can regrow in a much healthier, sturdier, more vibrant and vital way. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But that's kind of like what's happening to you. But when it's actually happening in your life, it can make it feel like you're going crazy, and it's just very unsettling, we'll say. This next indicator is that all the things you maybe used to do that would help you cope with challenges no longer work for you. You know, for you tarot readers out there who are used to seeking counsel from the card, you'll just start getting nothing. You're getting nothing. You feel like cut off. You might even find if you turn to like alcohol or substances or food that doesn't do it. It doesn't help. It doesn't offer any escape, any relief, nothing. It just makes you feel worse. And you feel almost like there's no running from not only A, the problems, but B, the emotions being conjured up. All your coping skills, whether they're healthy or not, don't work. Even if you're into meditation and yoga, you'll find that you can do that until you're blue in the face. But you're gonna leave that session feeling frazzled, feeling unsafe, feeling unworthy, whatever's coming up for you, it's gonna be there, and so will your situation. And it's just kind of unfortunate because it's like, it makes it difficult to manage your life. That's another reason I'm so passionate about these videos, is because we're not like the monks in the monastery who are surrounded by people who encourage us and understand us and sort of take care of us when we're in this sort of spiritually fragile state. No, we have jobs. I have 3 kids. I'm going through the dark night of the soul. I got bills to pay. I'm losing my mind here. Nothing is even helping to escape a little bit. And it's a very trying time when these old coping skills, again, whether they're good or bad, they just don't work anymore. And this is actually kind of a multifaceted benefit, believe it or not. It sounds very grim and bleak, I know. And the guy, St. John of the Cross, he wrote this book back. He was a Spanish mystic from the 1500s. He was the first person to write about the dark night of the soul. Pretty deep book. But he talks about this as being the dark night of the senses. And it's a way to basically purge out our ignorances and our maybe immature usage of things that dazzle the senses. It's not ideal. It's not a grown-up thing to do to, when challenged, run away in some form. Whether you're drinking or scrolling Instagram, you're seeking escape, that's not healthy. And so it doesn't work anymore, which kind of sucks in a way, but it sort of forces you to kind of rise up and mature to handle your situations and your emotions more maturely, whether you like it or not, because again, there's no other options. It's also said that in this way, it creates an opening for the divine to flow in. Because it seems like these challenges, they kind of break you down and humble you to where you're kind of left with no other options but to like pray, basically, in your own way, in your own fashion. And that can kind of invite an actual like solution in, an actual resolve, actual peace that's not dependent upon some type of dualistic high-low game you were previously playing with whatever your vices or whatever were. It's something that is more lasting, it's deeper, it's there whether things are going well or things are being challenged. It's this divine connection. And you don't feel it now, so don't get your hopes up too much, but it's resulting in that. It's part of the process of leading you to that. Going a little further with what I was just saying, just to be clear, this is another sign. You feel abandoned by the gods. Your God, your idea of a higher power. You feel abandoned by even your own intuition. You might feel like, you know what, normally my intuition kind of kicks in right about now, and when things get rough, I kind of always seem to know what to do. Whether you believe in God or anything of the sort, there's like your instincts, your heart is its own intelligence, so is your gut. You can communicate with these different parts of yourself, and you feel like you're getting nothing. You feel completely cut off. In fact, St. John of the Cross talks about this, and he calls it spiritual or aridity. It's like arid. You're barren of moisture. You're barren of sustenance, barren of that spiritual juice and vitality. So if you just stack it all up for a moment, you're coming down from this crazy high. You're faced with really serious problems, although a lot of times they're not as serious as they seem. You think they're serious at the time. Your coping skills, they don't work at all. Emotional upheaval, inner child wounds galore. And to top it off, you don't even have this connectedness to that deeper part of yourself. So you feel completely like just engulfed in the darkness, hence the dark night of the soul. It's a very fitting term. In fact, when I used to go through this, I would get upset. I would feel wronged by like my own version of spiritual guidance. I would sometimes even verbally start to yell at my spirit guides, on my higher self. I'd say, what the hell's going on? Are you serious right now? You're gonna put me through the ringer in this way and then just take a freaking vacation? When I need you the most, Archangel, Michael, whatever it is, you're gone? And I would get super, super frustrated because it felt cruel. At the same time, I sort of sensed, and I bet you do as well, that this feels kind of like a test. Maybe not a test that I'm going to pass or fail, but it feels like something I'm meant to go through. Growing pains. It's like when you're a little kid, you're with mom and dad if you're lucky, and you have a mom and a dad, and they love you and they play with you all the time, but then eventually you got to go to school and you got to get on that bus. There's all these strange kids and you don't know what to make of this social setting, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Mom and dad are like waving goodbye. You see them in the window and you're like, at the same time on that school bus, maybe give it a few days, you might meet your best friend. You might learn something at school. You might get to play with a whole bunch of cool kids. It's this awesome experience, but it's that feeling cut off. You might even temporarily feel abandoned by your parents. Like, where the hell is mom and dad? This is some bullshit. I don't know this bus driver. I don't trust them. I don't know these kids. What am I going to do? At the same time, your mom and dad know what's best for you. They know you're going to be okay. They know you're going to kind of like, you're going to like get used to things. You're going to get a hang of it. And then once that happens, there's a lot of cool benefits and blessings that can't happen in the safety of mom and dad's, arms. It feels kind of an awful lot like that. Yeah, you're cut off. At the same time, I think it's a necessary thing, at least according to St. John of the Cross, according to my experience. It does seem like it does produce a stronger faith. a stronger connection. It sort of forces you to mature emotionally, literally, even with your thought patterns. You start to kind of reorganize all this stuff. Just as you adjust on that school bus, here you are adjusting, but it's not fun. They don't call it growing pains for no reason. You feel plagued by intense doubt and fear and just anxiety. You don't know where the future's going. All you know is what you were into, what was encompassing your life is breaking away. You don't know why. You have no idea what's to come. You don't even have any inspiration about what it might be. Sometimes, as you may have experienced, when things kind of break down, there's like at least a glimmer of an opportunity somewhere on the horizon. And you can kind of sense that, okay, you know what? I suppose it makes sense to let go of this because this other thing's kind of calling to me. There's nothing. It's just breakdown. And it's difficult to trust. It's difficult to not basically panic inside when all these safety nets in your life are just snapping one after the other. And you're just falling, free falling through the darkness. And you're like, what is going on? So you might find that you just oscillate from feeling like neutral and okay to like, oh shit, like the reality of the situation like sinks in and it can just feel very scary. You know, this can happen, for me it would happen a lot of times with my finances. And some people it happens with love. And again, it doesn't have to even be a big deal. It doesn't even have to be like things are happening horribly. Like you don't actually have to go broke to fear going broke. You don't actually have to end a relationship to fear or to feel uncertain. Maybe your wife takes a vacation for 2 weeks and you don't talk to her because she's in India on some type of sabbatical and your mind just goes crazy. It doesn't have to, it's oftentimes not actually that much of a problem, but you feel this tremendous uncertainty is the best way I could put it. Because your ego finally has a circumstance that it can't manage. It's beyond your control. The ego does not like that. It reacts to that. But that's the point. Only if we had this illusion that we're always in control, and we if the ego had its way, it would never change. It would never grow. It would never get on that freaking school bus. It would stay exactly as it is in this protected, little, boring, unsatisfying, sad little bubble. So the divine swoops in, shakes up our snow globe a little bit, knocks us off our square, giving us an opportunity to maybe seek another form of life guidance. Maybe find something other than the mind's need to control. Find another way. It's like an opportunity to experience this duality, this dualistic, hot, cold, up, down, left, right life situation in a different way, in a more evolved way, more so with like the knowledge that all things do change. Get over it. That nothing stays the same. And you can't have good without the bad. And if you're always seeking the good, you're also always seeking the bad in that exact same proportion. And life is not in our control. You know that now. You've been humbled, I bet, if you're watching this video. You know that you're not in control. You're not running the show anymore. And it's scary because God's taking a freaking vacation, so you don't know who's running the show. All you know is you're not. At the same time, it's part of it. It's kind of like a bunch of things setting you up for this reunion with the divine. And in going through it, you're maturing, you're working on your issues, you're facing challenges, all these things are kind of like gestating and happening for you, resulting eventually in this kind of culmination of all the different attributes and growth spurts you're kind of cultivating, paired with the sun finally peeking back through the clouds, i.e. the divine, because it never really went away. It's just behind the clouds. You can't see it. It comes back, and things are improving, and you're a new person. It's a pretty mighty. It's a pretty wonderful experience. But to have that, this is apparently what it takes. Another key component of this dark night of the soul is an identity loss. You might find not only is all the stuff happening that I mentioned, but you you can't even grasp on your identity, the person you thought you were. Even that no longer is offering you any solace or support. You know, during one of my dark nights, I lost a bunch of weight. I lost I'm like 181 basically most mornings, 182. And I lost about 30 pounds. And with those 30 pounds was hard-earned muscle I gained throughout my high school years. And being so fit and working out so intensely, I developed this identity as the fit guy, Victor the workout guy. I was a fitness trainer. Everyone knew me as a guy who knew all about nutrition, and I would always tell people, I'd help them with their diets and all this kind of stuff. And here I am withering away, 30 pounds lighter, literally I ran into one of my old personal training clients during that time, and he said, "Jesus, Vic, you look like you're gonna blow away." But the point is, it was not only that I lost weight and that I felt weak and struggled to gain my strength, it was more so, I don't even know who I am anymore. What do you do? What do you do when you don't even know who you are anymore? Identity crisis, basically. Now, why do you think that is? By now, you're probably picking up the pattern here, that there's usually a benefit to this, and there is. Because you are not dying. Your true identity is not even going anywhere either. It's your false identity. I was always more than Victor the fitness guy. And you were always more than the character you were playing. Now, a lot of times the new identity comes, it's so foreign, it needs a lot of room, basically. You know, for example, I went from being, again, Victor the fitness guy, the personal trainer, to a guy that talks about this stuff on YouTube. Talks about the full moon energy and dark nights of the soul and does spiritual coaching. It was a completely unexpected new version of me that I would have never been able to, be open to if I didn't experience this sort of painful ego crisis. So I say that to say this. If you're going through this and if you're feeling kind of lost, like I don't know who I am anymore, good. Because you're about to find out. And I can tell you this with 100% certainty, and I bet you know this intuitively, you're going to like it. They're going to be very happy with this with the real version of yourself that eventually emerges and takes precedent in your psyche and in your body and in your thinking and in your behavior. You're going to be very grateful for who you really are underneath that identity. And maybe it served you. There was nothing wrong with me being Victor the fitness guy. I was happy doing that. It was cool. It served its purpose though. And again, nothing stays the same. Life is always about changing and evolution, basically. So there's another chapter, and you have to close the first one initially before you can open up the next one. You also feel possessed. Not possessed, but possessed by your lower self. It's an interesting thing when you witness yourself reacting from an old pattern, but don't have the will or the awareness of how to not do that. So you might find yourself, again, reacting, overreacting, emotional outbursts, and just playing out old cycles and old patterns with way more awareness. Now that sounds good, to be more aware. In some ways, it's actually harder because now you know better and you still do it. You know what? When I was 12, I went through a little phase where I would steal stuff. Me and all my friends, we'd go to the store and we'd steal like cigarettes, we'd steal like just candy and stupid shit like that, I didn't feel guilty, believe it or not, because I didn't really think I was doing anything wrong. At that young age, I was just kind of, I don't know, like a dumb little preteen little punk, and I wasn't thinking about it. Now, if I was to steal something, I would not sleep. I would feel horrible about it because now I know better. But imagine if I'm going around stealing left and right with this awareness as my adult self. I have to live with that. When you watch yourself lash out at your loved ones in anger, as an example, Or if you react very emotionally to some situation and you cause someone to be upset, and you know you just did that, it's like a big pill to swallow. It's very difficult to kind of look yourself in the mirror when you see yourself acting out of integrity, out of alignment with who you at least wish to be. And it can create a lot of shame. It can be very difficult, especially for people who thought of themselves as like very spiritual, because you're like, wow, God, I have a lot of work to do. And it's just kind of a difficult thing to do. But nonetheless, to your own defense, it's that conditioning is so ingrained and it has such momentum. And it does seem as if life almost purposely sets you up for these experiences. And I think to see them in that way with this awareness, even though there's maybe some guilt and some shame and regret, it allows you to make a new choice next time. This happened to me on ayahuasca one time. I've drinking ayahuasca like probably 40-something times. We used to run retreats in Costa Rica. Hope to again one day, actually. But anyway, my first time ever drinking ayahuasca, I had this vision of me in my bathroom, in the house I was living in at the time. And I watched myself like yell at my son, my middle son, Lucas, who at the time was like maybe 2 or 3 years old. I kind of had this vision of me kind of like barking at him, basically. And then the ayahuasca kind of showed me my son's face. It showed me like just the devastation on his face with dad like barking at him. And that face to this day is like burnt into my mind. It was, it was like a visual on ayahuasca. So it wasn't like watching a movie, but it was exactly what I needed to see. And man, I remember the ceremony ended and everyone like went back to their houses or their like where they were staying. And I did initially. And then I was like, I can't even be with myself. I was so appalled with this part of myself that was sort of thrown in my face by the ayahuasca. Because of course I love my son so much. It was very, very hard to look at. So I left my room and went back to the ceremony space. And almost until the sun came out, I just sat out there and looked up at the stars and beat myself up. It was like that type of feeling, But you know what? I never did that again. Not with any of my kids. It was something I needed to change. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes you don't have to drink ayahuasca. The dark night of the soul does a pretty good job of creating, sometimes, not everybody. Again, these all happen to varying degrees with different people. It's not like I'm predicting all this stuff for you, but if it happens, I'm giving you hopefully a positive spin. It's an opportunity to experience it, like to sit with it. This is something I just did. But that can be enough to just sort of conclude, no more. I don't care what happens. And then you'll find that when other things maybe similarly trigger you, this experience, though sometimes painful, it sticks with you, just like that ayahuasca ceremony stuck with me. And the result of all of this, if you haven't already concluded yourself, is humility. Before going through my dark night of the soul, I was fairly judgmental, especially because I had a bit of a spiritual awakening and I had these glimpses of like other states of consciousness. And I would, for a while, look down on 3D people, regular people, even my friends and family. I kind of like looked down at, and I would see very clearly, their issues and their unconsciousness. And I would think, oh man, I would have this kind of like air of superiority. I didn't talk about it, but I kind of in my head thought that way. And I felt a lot of like resistance to unconsciousness that I was witnessing. Lo and behold, the dark night of the soul shows me my own. It showed me that A, you're not in control, buddy. You are like a leaf in the frickin' wind, and you have no control over the wind. 2, all the things you are pointing your finger at, well, guess what? All those many, many fingers not pointing back at myself. The experience I just talked about a second ago as just one example. And it's like, It's hard. It's hard to be humbled. Sometimes we can be stubborn, but the dark night of the soul will break you down and humble you. And good, because it's better to be humble. It's better to be, in a sense, Jesus said, meek inherits the earth. And I think that's kind of what he meant by that. Not that I'm trying to impose any sort of religious dogma on you necessarily, but I think there's a lot of wisdom in that phrase right there. The meek will inherit the earth. Not only that, but the earth, or is it more like God's grace, the divine, genuine faith, genuine connection to spirit? Can't come through our thick egos, can it? But if we can become humble, then we can let it in. And with it, even without it, just the sheer result of being humbled to such a degree, at least for me, it allowed me to have compassion for the types of people I once judged. Compassion for even really bad people and really irate people and people who are just doing kind of really unconscious things. It's like, I've seen myself also act pretty unconsciously. What I don't like there, it's also in me, and it's part of the human condition. And it's allowed me to just have a lot more empathy and understanding and compassion for people. And also gratitude. Because when your whole world shakes up the way I explained, a lot of the things you realize you took for granted. Your situation, just feeling good, basically, feeling happy and secure and this and that. When it all comes back in a better way, as I mentioned, it always does, there is an appreciation for it. Appreciation for the smallest of things. Just a gratitude to be able to breathe and feel the sunlight on your skin, to still be alive, full of options in all moments. And just little things like that suddenly become more real. So this humbling seems to be necessary for all these wonderful blessings. So when things start to pick up again, and they do, and they will, and they have for me, you don't squander it. You don't lose sight of what matters. And you give lots and lots of thanks. You feel grateful. You know it's a gift. You know it can be taken away at a moment's notice as well. It allows you to live in the moment, sharp, on the edge of your seat. This all reminds me of the TV show Lost. Have you guys seen Lost? Awesome TV show. There's this scene that comes to mind where John Locke, he's like this wise, outdoorsy type dude. He's looking at a caterpillar, or rather a little butterfly, kind of like in the process of breaking out of the cocoon. And he's trying to give a lesson to this other castaway named Charlie. He's trying to get over his addictions, basically. And he says, Charlie, I could take this knife right here and I could cut open that cocoon and allow that butterfly just to be free. But if I did, it would be too weak to fly, and it would fall to the forest floor and die. What I've learned is that being more divinely connected it's just this idea. It's actually a physiological manifestation. It's a real thing, basically. And as you know, too much light at one time is blinding. We can't handle it. What happens? We close our eyes. I was sitting outside just earlier today, and I was like, man, it's too bright. I gotta go inside. Can't see. You might feel like, why don't we just get to the freaking finish line? If God or whatever is so powerful, why? Why all this? I think it's because we're much like that butterfly. We need to possess and to cultivate the strength, the maturity, the humility, the openness for what's to come. And I believe you feel that. Comment below if you do. Comment below if you know this is all happening for a reason.